After being shut out of our pools and locked down for 8 to 10 weeks due to the coronavirus, what's the best way to get our kids back in the water and back up to speed? We'll explore this in the next episode of Swim Talk A2B, right after this. Hey, welcome to another week of Swim Talk. This is the podcast that has everything about swimming from A to B. This is your co-host, Dana Abbott, and our co-host down in our remote bunker in Bay City, Texas, Bob Button. How are you doing today?
Never better.
We wanted to explore the getting back into the swim of things. You have a rather unique situation being a high school and a club coach, and you're at the mercy of the availability of a city pool. What happened when the school shut down back in March and you lost access to your pool?
Well, right off the bat, we started scrambling, looking for dry land options for the kids. It all had to be remote. I didn't like the idea of Zooming remote dry land. So instead, I started posting on a daily basis on our team site different options. Found quite a few good options for the kids, in addition to the dry land program we had been doing. And we did a weekly Zoom. Had a couple of guest speakers. One of them was the A in A2B. Another one was of one of our former swimmers. And also in those Zooms, we also talked about what the kids had done previous week. And a couple of my captains put all this stuff together and came up with their own routine for the kids and shared it with the team. So we were basically doing dry land OYO on your own all spring, and hoping the city was going to give us access to the pool for the club side because my club kids were out of the water also. I just included them on the same website so that they could get the same dry land work. Once the city gave us the go-ahead to get back in, we followed the one per lane protocol that USA Swimming sent out. And that was fine because 8 lanes, and I told my people, anybody that wants to join, I got 4 spots, and 6 people wanted it, so the first 4 got in. So I got 8 people, 8 lanes, and away we went. The first couple of weeks was a lot of stroke work, a lot of terminology for the new people. Didn't even get the pace clock out for the first week at all. Did a lot of one-arm series, freestyle and butterfly, something that we use as a good warm-up once they get the hang of it. Didn't do anything too difficult until maybe partway through the second week.
Yeah, that's sort of what I've heard with some other swim clubs. When you got back in the water after 8 to 10 weeks off, you didn't want to start off pounding them right away and looking for the yardage. And I think a lot of clubs probably got into reinforcing or rebuilding stroke technique because being out of the water for 8 or 10 weeks, you're going to lose the feel for it.
You bet. And that was one of the concerns. And I told the kids up front, your feel for the water might not be there, but we're going to get your fitness back. And I projected that hopefully we're going to get our fitness back within maybe another 6 weeks. And I think we're well on our way to doing that right now. We've been in the water, 4 weeks? We're in the 4th week, I guess. And the fitness is definitely coming back. And the kids that really did a lot of good work on their dry land actually improved their strength, obviously. And now that their aerobic fitness is coming back, they look really good. I'm impressed. So I'm scrambling to make sure that I keep up with them now and don't give them too little.
A lot of schools that have their own pools, which seems to be the case in a lot of portions of the U.S., were very slow to reopen, even if they are reopened. And it's the private clubs that have access to the water that are giving access to programs like yours where you don't have access to your own facility or to control your own facility. The private clubs, I can think of a couple of here in Houston, have been renting lanes like crazy. There are 2 of the other things that some clubs have been doing and some swimmers have been doing is open water. And there has been, as I understand it, quite a bit of tethered swimming going on. Do you have anything to comment about that?
Yeah, big concern about open water around here would be gators, because they tend to move around, and you may end up meeting up with one if you're just swimming in a pond down here. You can go down to the beach. Of course, the beach was closed for a while, so you couldn't go to the beach. But once you could go to the beach, you could do a swim down, run back type of workout that we used to do way back in the 90s on a Saturday morning type of thing. I think Doug Ingram's group over at Indian River used to do that sort of thing. This is dating me. Back in the early to mid 80s, I think they used to do something like that. But those are good workouts. Tethered, you got to be careful because your body position might be a little altered. The endless pool is a good option if you are able to have the right motor in it to have enough speed. If not, I guess put a pocket suit on or some sort of resistance.
Yeah, you brought up endless pools. That's a real interesting thing going on. A friend of ours has an endless pool, and he is renting personal workout time as well as providing instruction. But you can only put one person in a standard endless pool. However, you're talking about the different speeds available, and you and I have been talking recently about the different versions of the endless pool. Their standard pool has a top speed, and all these speeds are dialable down to basically just barely moving. But I think the first one is a minute 8 per 100. 108 per 100 pace is the top speed.
68 if you're a track coach.
There you go. And the next one down, I think, is a 105. And then there's I think there might be something between that and a 57, but they have a top-notch model that is good for 51-second 100-yard pace.
I couldn't do that with fins and paddles.
Yeah, well,
that's good. That's for the elite, and they need something right now.
Yeah, it's one thing about correcting stroke technique on the side of a pool when you're walking with the kid and you're watching and giving them instruction, but we don't swim at that speed in races. So they have to be able to go at race pace so you can look at their technique. And while you and I would do just fine and probably be overtaxing ourselves at a 108, the speeds that some of the kids that you're working with and that I work with, I think right around 105 to a minute. I don't know many of our kids would be training for very long at 57-second pace. They rarely swim a 200 in a meet at a 57 pace. So, but for the higher levels, yeah, they do need a higher speed. But I think the one thing about the endless pool that's good is that it is adjustable. It's not like one speed, jump in and try to stay with it.
Yeah. The one size fits all flume type thing. And you can also mix up your strokes if you're in an endless pool that maybe doesn't have the speed that you need as a freestyler in your for the faster freestylers, I guess you're going to swim a little backstroke, little odd stroke to maybe adapt to the endless pool.
Yeah, I think
have the elite model.
I think one of the things we want to do in the future for our podcast here on Swim Talk is to get Glenn Mills on here and talk to him. He is absolutely a guru with that, and a good friend of mine was on the 1980 Olympic team that didn't get to go to Moscow. He's got a setup out in Scottsdale that's got his setup out there, and he is networking with some other coaches with endless pools that are doing similar type things. And I know that a lot of people with endless pools have them set up in their basements or their garages or indoors, and I would think swimming freestyle is one thing, but when you start swimming butterfly, all that splashing, you got to be careful the kind of setup you've got. But what do you think about using pocket suits, drag suits in an endless pool?
Well, got a young man when I was talking to you earlier about the dry land, he was religious about his dry land. He really did a great job and came back in really good shape. His fitness is coming back, and he has really distanced himself from a couple of the other kids to a point where I just told his dad, need a pocket suit. I could swim him some odd strokes on some of their freestyle sets for some of these kids, and they could race, but I think I'm going to put him in a pocket suit for part of practice. Did that way back in the 90s. I had a young man that was a 56-second short course yard breaststroker. That's for the 100. That would be my 50. That was on a team with a bunch of kids that was about their best 100 free. So he was swimming breaststroke on their freestyle sets or with a pocket suit. He could swim freestyle with them. So yeah, I'm a believer in the pocket suit because it's great resistance and it doesn't really alter your body position. I do like that part about it.
Okay, we're coming up on a break here we have to take. We will be back in just a second. Since 1988, Endless Pools has installed tens of thousands of pools in over 100 countries. People of all ages and athletic abilities, from octogenarians to Olympians, turn to their endless pools for daily swimming, exercise, therapy, and fun. Endless pools come in 4 maximum paces in 4 models. The original model has a maximum speed of 108 per 100, the performance model 105 per 100, the high-performance model at 55 seconds per 100, and for the top swimmers, their elite model has a top speed of 51 seconds per 100. For more information, see endlesspools.com. And we're back. You were talking. We were both talking about gators before, and I've got a true story to share with you. We were down. We had a travel training trip down Florida Gulf Coast University, coached by a real good friend of mine, Neil Studd, who is now the head coach at Florida State. We were training long course. We were down there for about 5 or 6 days, I think, and we were going to do long course in the morning, and then we were going to do some open water swimming in the artificial lake, which was right next to the dormitories. We show up one morning to go get in the long course pool. Neil comes over and he pulls me aside and he says, "Dana, I'm going to have to swim in the short course pool this morning. We've got a little bit of a problem in the long course pool." And I said, "Okay." Well, I was thinking, chlorine, pH balance, code brown, exactly. And so we get the kids over in their diving well, which was short course meters, short course yards. And after we were done training and the kids were ready to go to breakfast, I went over and I said, "Well, what was the problem this morning?" And I said, "Was it a code brown?" And he goes, "Actually, no. That we're right up on the next to the woods, and it's a lot of watery area and all sorts of waterways down there." And he says, "We actually had an alligator in the pool this morning."
Whoa!
Wow. Crawled in from the swampy woods next door. It was a baby. It wasn't real big. It was only about 3 feet long. But
take a couple toes off. Anyway.
Yeah, well, So, but I'll tell you, by the time we got home on the airplane at the end of the week, that alligator had grown into something that could live in Lake Placid. It was a 9-foot killer, if an inch. So, and they never saw it, but somehow it had grown enormously. Hey, we were talking about your pool down in Bay City. And what are some of the more interesting reasons you've had to cancel practice? We've already mentioned the infamous Code Brown, the Baby Ruth episode from Caddyshack. But what are some of the problems you run into when the pool is not under your personal direction?
Right. And first off, in case they're listening, City of Bay City's done a good job for us by opening the pool at all. So we really appreciated that. Just since we've been back this month, we've had, I remember on a Friday, the pump motor started sounding a little funny. Saturday started sounding a lot funny. So I let them know. And by Monday, we were shut down. The impeller had been pretty much torn up. So impeller cost us a couple days. And then when we came back, our normal workout time, we were working around lap swim. We were trying to work around all the other programs because we needed the whole pool to ourselves with the deal we made with them. They wanted us to have one per lane. So we show up one day and the pool's full of rec swimmers. Public swim had been scheduled into that slot without telling us. So we missed that day. And we've adjusted our schedule since then and made it work. I've got some kids that are driving in from a long way, so The headache there is we've still stuck with our early morning practice, and now they're pushed later in the evening to where they don't get home till close to 8 o'clock. So I worry about their recovery. They're got to get dinner, they got to get home, they got to get some sleep. And then they got to get up real early the next morning to get here in time for that. So I guess so far, to answer your original question, we've had, little pool problems, a little scheduling problems. In the past, we've had bats in the pool and snakes, and being an outdoor facility, there are plenty of things that can keep you out. This morning it was lightning. Can't do much about that.
Not to mention killer frogs and
right.
things you run into that like the water. And not to pick on the good people at Bay City, but these are problems that coaches run into everywhere.
Right. You'll have a vandalism night sometimes where, and knock on wood, we haven't had one in a while, where you'll show up and depending on the facility you're at, there'll be benches or lounge chairs or whatever in it. Anything they can think of to throw in the pool. I know when I visited Indiana State maybe 2 summers ago, I stopped through terrible Terre Haute on the way through, told them just for old time's sake, I'd love to see the old arena pool. And they said, well, we've had a little problem overnight. And you guessed it, went in there and all kinds of things had been thrown in the pool. So it was kind of disappointing. But anyway, it happens. Public pools, private pools, people find a way in and they can't leave well enough alone. I can't think of too many other things that have cost us practices.
I want to throw some current events in here. I was reading in the Wall Street Journal this morning. This is Wednesday, June 24th. It is a sports article, and the headline is Novak Djokovic tests positive for COVID-19. And I want to read some of the article. He was hosting a tournament, a string of exhibitions through the Balkans, and the coronavirus was going down in the region. All right. So this series that he was sponsoring was supposed to be a step toward normalcy for a sport that has been shut down since mid-March, like swimming. All right. And within 48 hours, the tournament turned into something else, a fiasco. 4 of the players, including Djokovic, have since tested positive for COVID-19, sending a sharp warning to the rest of the sports world that any return to competition remains a high-risk proposition. The other positive cases were players from Bulgaria, Croatia, and Serbia, in addition to members of their respective entourages. That I believe that means groupies.
Right.
And now Djokovic's attitude.
We call it a posse now.
Yeah. Djokovic's attitude toward the virus had already made headlines once during the tennis shutdown when he said he would consider staying home if tournaments began requiring the players receive a vaccine to compete, but that remained a hypothetical. This debacle underlined why tournaments would need to be so cautious. And here is the crux of the matter. He's had little sympathy from his fellow pros. Nick, I'm going to say this wrong, Kyrgios, he tweeted, boneheaded decision to go ahead with the exhibition. Speedy recovery, fellas, but that's what happens when you disregard all protocols. This is, all caps, not a joke. Now, here's the problem. During the tour, Djokovic and his guest had done all sorts of things that were normal before a global pandemic and completely cringe-inducing in the middle of one. They embraced at the net after matches. They played pickup basketball. They partied in a Belgrade nightclub where videos showed them limbo dancing, occasionally without shirts on and never wearing a mask. Now, we've taken a lot of steps going back to the pools to get our kids in the water. We've got coaches wearing masks. Right. We got kids wearing masks from the time they get out of their car till the time they step on the pool deck. The coaches are not standing within, and we've just made some changes in the club that I work with, not standing within 7 feet of a kid or the edge of the pool. The kids are spaced out. We've got them separated by lanes and spaces in the lanes. They bring a little plastic bin or tub to put their personal stuff in, their shorts and shirts and
Right.
shoes while they're swimming. So, of course, they'll stay dry, but also they're not going to be mixed up with anybody else. They bring their own water bottles. They don't use the water fountain. I mean, they're taking all sorts of, and as soon as they get out of the water, as soon as they dry off, they put their mask back on. They go home. They do not change. They wrap themselves up in their towels. They go get in their cars. They go home. All right. Now, these are common sense steps. What in the world was Djokovic thinking with his friends, doing all the stuff that they were alleged to have done with such disregard for the safety protocols? And how does well, they weren't thinking, but how does this play into other sports? And swimming, I mean, I think we've done about all we can do.
Right.
What are your thoughts?
Right. Well, I think, okay, speaking for myself and probably a very high percentage of other swim coaches, we tend to be a control freak and control what you can and let the rest go. But we do have to control a lot of this, and we got to take ownership of it. And my kids, when they come up to the pool in the morning, the gate's closed. And until I'm ready and set up for them, I don't open the gate. And then once I open the gate, they come in with a mask. I'm greeting them with a mask, taking their temperature. They pick up a printout of the workout, and then they go to their designated area to leave their backpack, what have you, because they've already got their suits on. And then they go to a lane. They start with the furthest lane, and as they come in, we keep repeating the procedure with all 8 of them. So the near lane is where the 8th person in the pool starts their loosen up. So we have 7.5 foot wide lanes. So everybody's 6 feet apart. Then we work them out. Now, I don't wear the mask while I'm working them out. Not standing right there next to them either. And we're outdoors, which is a big advantage. And then we reverse the procedure when it's time to go home.
A couple other points real quick. The club that I work with, I believe, I don't know what the measured distance is, but they're telling the kids don't hang with each other outside the pool before you come in or after you go out.
Right. We're not congregating.
Right. Don't congregate. Yeah. Don't congregate. And the other thing is that coaching with a mask on, even if it's outdoors, it is hard. I personally went to I've got a couple of kids that I worked with in high school in the last couple of years that were both in the same training group once they got back into the water a couple of weeks ago. So I grabbed my mask and I went over to the pool and I sat on the far side. I wasn't anywhere near the kids. I wasn't anywhere near the coaches. It was the middle of the day on a Saturday, and I thought I was going to die because I couldn't breathe.
Yeah, it's not pleasant. I'm fortunate that I don't have the policy where I have to have the mask on while coaching. But yeah, once they're getting out of the pool, mask goes back on. They go back to their designated area, which all the areas are lined out with a cone, so they're 6 feet apart. Go pick your stuff up and exit the breezeway. Next, go pick your stuff up, exit the breezeway. Now, once they get out of the facility,
you don't have control.
Tell them all we want. No lollygaggers. No lollygaggers. Don't congregate. Don't hang out. Get out of here. Go home, and we'll see you next practice. But again, we're control freaks, and we'd love to control that. But sometimes they're standing down there on the way to the parking lot or to their vehicles, chit-chatting a little too close. We discourage it, but we can't control it all. We try. I guess I can give their parents some push-ups if they let them do that.
Well, we do the best we can. We do the best we can. We got another break coming up. And when we come back, we're going to talk about NCAA championships and the Olympics in Tokyo. So stay tuned. And we're back. The Swim Talk podcast with everything you want to know about swimming from A to B. We were talking earlier about the kids having lost so much this year with this 8 to 10 week shutdown. There are bigger pictures, though, and a lot higher levels of swimming. Going into this year's men's Division I NCAAs.
Hold on. You mean higher level than Summer League?
Higher level than
What
summer
is there
league.
anything else out there? Really?
Well, there's this thing called NCAA Division One swimming.
All right.
And the men's meet this year was going to be in Indianapolis, and a lot of teams coming in there with very strong teams. What do you know about some of those teams?
Well, I think most of them would, well, all of them would be vying for the second place trophy behind UT, right? That's about all I know about it.
Go Longhorns! Yeah,
Right.
yeah. There were. I've got some friends that they consider themselves in the know, and they thought that Texas may have scored as high as 700 points, which would have blown the lid off of the previous high score. But their rosters coming in were incredible, and it's not just Texas. Cal was coming in with an incredibly strong team, and there were some others too.
Yeah. Cal had the shirt that said "runner up or bust." I remember seeing that they were getting those printed.
And now they have nothing to back it up. Well,
Right.
all those swimmers, what a letdown that must have been. How do you think they handle something like that?
Well, for the seniors, I mean, how do you relate it? For the seniors, their careers are virtually over, I guess, unless they were going to continue on as post grads. Maybe you equate it to a kid that's having a great senior year and has an injury or illness right before NCAA's. What a huge letdown. Yeah, I don't know.
That's just one kid. You're talking about an entire team that's facing that
Right.
situation.
Yeah, they've been sweating every day in the weight room and working their tails off in the pool, getting ready for it, and then boom, nothing. I don't know. I don't know how you deal with that.
Well, if there's anything, we know that swimmers are some of the most resilient athletes there are. The only thing that I can think of that even comes close to this kind of disappointment after so much preparation was, of course, 1980 Olympics.
Yeah, Jimmy Carter's fiasco, right?
Jimmy Carter, thank you so much. Yeah, our boycott of the Olympics didn't do anything about the war in Afghanistan. But we made a statement. We made a statement. This, however, was totally out of the control of anybody. This was a health issue. This is not a political statement.
Right.
And then they said, well, what about Tokyo? Tokyo is supposed to be going on next month. And now there are still some questions about whether it will even go next year in 2021.
And if they do, they want to trim back some of the events. So
the opening ceremonies, the closing ceremonies, when they have the masses of people walking around the track and shaking hands and taking pictures, and
which for me personally, I'm not big on that sort of thing, but for a lot of people, that's one of the biggest highlights of either watching or participating. I know it's a big deal to a lot of people, so it'll be a big letdown if they aren't able to do the full program.
Well, the swimmers are certainly going to be preparing for this. And if they're back in the water, they're already trying to regain what they might have lost. I don't think any of them were sitting on their couch watching Netflix. They were out riding their bikes,
right?
Eating bonbons or Reese's Pieces or whatever it was. They're doing dry land. They're training in private pools. They're finding an endless pool to get into. They're going open water swimming.
Right.
They're killing themselves in their homemade gyms. A lot of them do have access to endless pools, whether it's their personal property or they know somebody. And one thing I think is real interesting about these endless pools is every time we swim in a short course or long course pool, there's always that pause, that hesitation when you change direction at the wall for your turn.
Right.
Endless pools, you don't have that. So I'm wondering how the training is different for a specified volume of training when you don't have turns to deal with.
Yeah, it's long course. It would be kind of like the NASCAR.
It's endless course,
right? The open water. Once in a while we show up to the pool and there's no lane ropes in. Not going to say much more about that. And what I'll do is I'll take a kettlebell, mesh gear bag, put a few pull buoys in it, and set that on the bottom. Put a few of those around and create a little open water course for us to swim a workout in the pool, but we'll call it open water. And yeah, you're right. They get one push off per circuit. Uh, it's I think it's better. And you can also say, hey, we're going to go no breather from the yellow buoy to the green buoy, or we're going to go butterfly from the green buoy to the red buoy. You can mix it up and have an open water style workout, but still get a lot of your pool type things in. Kick this stretch, swim that stretch, do a little drill here, whatever you want to come up with. It works out. And you're right, though. You don't have that pause for every turn, short course or even long course. Plus, you get your kids to learn a little bit of open water swimming. Teach them how to do a buoy turn, the corkscrew into that buoy and get a good turn out of it. It's been fun the couple times we've done it. And I think the kids got a lot out of it fitness wise too.
Yeah, you're going to have to change your plan and adapt to conditions. Being flexible is one of the things we're told we have to be all the time when we go into battle. Even Sun Tzu said you have to be flexible. You have to adapt to the enemy. Here's something that I saw in recent weeks in the papers. There are several universities that said they're going to start on time. Our local secondary school district is going to be starting, I think, August the 19th. They say they are. We don't know what's going to happen once it gets closer. But universities that say they're going to start on time, and then there's some others that say they're going to wait until roughly mid-October, late October, to start their academic years. Different starting times for academics can't apply to athletics, I wouldn't think, because those seasons at a national level don't flex.
Right. I think the waivers are going to be flying, and they're going to have to be real flexible. The NCAA will, NAIA and JCAA. UIL is going to have to be flexible. There's going to be we've got places out in West Texas that have little or no virus in their counties. And then you've got other hot spots like Harris County. They're going to have to deal with it a lot differently, athletics and academics. And I don't see that any different for the colleges. There's going to be some that'll be able to go right back to work, and some that may not be going back at all.
Well, here's another difference between the high schools and the colleges. We're talking about these seniors that have prepared, for 4 years or longer, trying to be ready for NCAAs. Well, you've got high school seniors that are in the unfortunate position they can't come back in the fall to continue their season. But there's been talk about the NCAA giving waivers to allow seniors to become fifth-year seniors. What do you do about incoming freshmen? What about the length of eligibility?
Well, and also, what about your scholarship? Your 8.9 or however many rides you're able to give. Now you got more freshmen coming in that you've promised something, and some seniors going out that would like to continue. How are they going to work with that?
Yeah, I think it really depends on the programs. We know our friend up at University of Texas, Eddie Reese, is in his starting his 43rd year.
I've heard of him
this fall. Yeah, he's been around for a little while.
I heard he steals all my stuff.
But he also has kids who are currently juniors and are making verbal commitments to swim for him at Texas. And Eddie is going to be 79 years old this month or next month. And yet these kids are still committing a year and a half out. This was 6 months ago. These kids have a tremendous amount of desire. And I don't think that some of these college kids will just say, well, I passed my time, it's up, I missed the NCAA, so I'm not going to swim, I'm not going to go any farther. That's got to be a tough thing to face for coaches and swimmers. I wonder what some of these top swimmers, especially the seniors at places like Cal and Texas and Indiana and so on, I wonder what is actually going to happen to them.
Yeah, I don't know about you when you were at Tulane, but I know when I was at Indiana State, we had 2 camps in that group of seniors. We had some that couldn't get enough of the sport, really wanted to continue either as a post-grad or as a master's, back that younger masters division. We had others that could just, hey, once conference meets over, I'm done. Hallelujah. Never going to touch the water again. You got both extremes out of that. Yeah, I don't know. Some of them are going to be able to let it go very easily, but you're right. The tough thing to do for the ones that want to have a better closure to their career. This has been difficult, and even if they were able to get a waiver to come back, does the school have a slot for them? It wouldn't be like me to rant about Title IX and quota systems, but the quota system is going to come into play for some of these schools. They might have some seniors wanting to stay and get that fifth year, and you got some freshmen coming in, and the school is saying, hey, we need to be careful about our numbers on the male side, and they'll give them a roster cap. And then what do? Do you tell the seniors you can't come back? Do you tell the freshmen they got a red shirt?
Well, not to put too fine a point on it, but it wasn't just the men that were affected by this. So
absolutely
the women are in the same boat.
But they aren't going to have a roster cap. The more, the better. We don't hear about them being limited. We do hear about the men's programs being limited. But you're right. The women got the same problem as far as wanting to finish out their careers. But I don't think the athletic department will take back.
Well, as usual, we have squandered another hour of your good time, and it's time to bring this podcast to a close. Do you have any closing thoughts you want to share with anyone?
No, I appreciate you including me on your podcast there, from A to B.
Everything from A to B, from Abbott to Button, A to B. We hope you'll come back and listen to us once we get this in a more polished state, and hopefully we'll be having some music.
I don't see how it could become more polished than this, but go ahead and try.
We've set the bar really high on this outing. But yeah, we'll come back. We're gonna try to add music, add some guests, have some call-ins, and mostly we're doing this with Zoom. And I say mostly because we're only doing it with Zoom. But we look forward to coming back and giving it another shot. And appreciate you all listening to us. All right, this is Splish and Splash, and we'll be back and see you next time. You've been listening to Swim Talk A2B with Dana Abbott and Bob Button, courtesy of our moms who sent us to our rooms and told us to stay out of trouble. 1 out of 2 ain't bad. We'll see you next time. Thanks for dropping by.